Oh, from New York, New York, you are listening to Extra Time, presented by AT&T 5G. I am Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, David Goss, Matt Doyle. It is Tuesday. We only got one tweet this time around saying, where are you guys? What's happening? I thought we announced it on the last show, but it was at the end, so we are back. We're not rested, I wouldn't say. I personally feel like I have heat exhaustion still. Happy holiday weekend to all of you out there. I won't talk too much about that other than to say that there's nothing that brings me more joy than to hand a box of poppers to a 4- and 2-year-old and see what shenanigans they get into. We were told that they were not the adult poppers. They could squeeze them in their hands, but for all you fireworks safety aficionados out there, feel free to correct me.
Anders, clip this moment for freezing cold takes in 10 years. Weeby's kids are running around with 85 fireworks in every direction, and Wiebe being here being like, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, look, my brother did train the 2-year-old to throw it at my feet in particular. So, we had a good time. Hope you did too. On to Rivalry Week. Heineken Rivalry Week is here. El Trafico Week, Friday on ESPN. There will be a watch-along for that on Twitch and YouTube. Jimmy Conrad going solo. Then it's going to be Sasha Kleshtin and I, and we're pulling in some special guests for Saturday night and more coming your way as Rivalry Week gets started. But, look, we've glossed over the headline here, Dave. Welcome to the promised land. How do you feel? I happily did some yard work this weekend. U20 World Cup and the Olympics. Our dreams have come true. Pinnacle of the sport. The brightest lights in soccer and football. This is where stars are made, Dave. Future World Cups, won and lost. Careers and lives changed forever, including yours.
We could win a medal on the men's soccer side similar to Wiebe named the 3 countries that just won a medal at the previous Olympics because it's so important.
We're talking about the future. This is a future play.
Oh, so you don't even know who won at the last Olympics, let alone silver or bronze.
Off the top of my head, no. But if we win a bronze, other than I want to say like the U17 World Cup back in LD's time, that would be, I think, our first official first, second, or third. I don't know where third place
Confed
medals.
Cup? 2009?
I guess. Yeah, Confed Cup. That ranks
Weird.
somewhere.
Weird.
Anyway, we'll talk more about the.
Can I say something in
Olympics.
seriousness, or we're gonna do that later?
We could.
Because I'm getting attacked right now. I'm getting attacked.
We could do it later.
Okay, we'll do it later.
You'll have your moment. You'll have your moment in the sun, just like these young men.
Okay.
Had theirs.
Cool.
Coming up today from the AT&T 5G virtual studios here, Giacomo Vrioni is signed as a DP by the Revs. They have officially replaced and used some of that Buxa money. Bruce has a lot to say about it, and it says something about where the Revs are going in the league. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk through Week 18. A lot of good stuff there, whether it be Cincinnati getting another impressive draw, Toronto FC continuing to implode, DC United and Taxi inspiring a conversation from us on who the best signing of 2022 is so far. And if we're going to do signings, we might as well do trades. So we'll dive into that as well. Should be a good time, and much, much more, including Sporting Kansas City's loss at home, the Red Bulls win, and Tyler Adams to lead, and many other USMNT and Canadian players on the move, it seems like, in this transfer window. Let's start with the best thing you saw in Week 18, and Dave, I'll give you the floor.
Oh, I go first?
Yes. I could go first. You want me to?
Yeah, you can go first.
Okay, fine. Sasha Kleshtin. He of perhaps a coaching or media career coming soon, but right now he's a soccer player, still a damn good one. His 99th assist in Major League Soccer on a first time. Would we call this no look? Was there an element of no look to this?
It feels like a no look back heel flick through ball.
Through ball, and not like the flick where it's like a couple feet, like a 10-yard back heel flick assist. And then after the game, goes to his press conference. This on July 4th. Of course, some awful news that morning in Highland Park, Illinois. Another mass shooting, 6 people lost, community devastated, etc. Awful, awful stuff, but unfortunately not out of the realm of normalcy for us as far as headlines go in our society right now. And says, I don't want to talk about the game. I just want to talk about what's going on with gun violence in our country. I applaud him for that. I just installed the Ali Bedoya photo behind me on my backdrop here, and unfortunately, or maybe, I don't know, inspirationally, that backdrop's being filled by folks in MLS doing things to make our society better, hopefully. But yeah, that's a hell of a through ball. It's a hell of a back heel. Sasha Kleshtin getting it done. Galaxy getting it done. So congratulations to him, and well done for him for taking a stand. Dave, I heard you talking on MLS Today. Great show with Joe Lowry this morning about 100 assist men in MLS and how Sasha is poised to be the 8th And I wondered if you could name the other 7. And so this is a quiz for you to start. I apologize. Between Olympics and this, we're putting you on the spot.
Yeah, great.
Help me out
I'd
here.
like
Give me, start running them down. Let's go.
Okay.
How many misses does he get, Doyle? How many misses are we giving him?
Oh,
3?
yeah, sure, 3.
3.
No, I'm
Okay,
getting
you
more
get
than
3 misses.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
I'd like to start with MLS Today, live every day, 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Tour Spaces. But if you miss it, you could search MLS Today on Spotify or any of your podcast apps and listen on demand, especially as these transfers happen.
It's a great show. Love it.
So I'm going to go Jaime Moreno,
Yep.
Steve Ralston.
Yep.
Well, you're
Brad-
not trying to go. You're not trying to
I'm
go.
not
in order,
going in
are you?
order.
No. Jaime is 7th
Okay.
on the list. Or no, he's
Steve
sorry.
Ralston.
He's
He's
6th.
sixth. He's sixth on the list.
107.
Weeby.
107. Don't say no more. We might give things away.
Okay.
Okay. Ralston was correct.
Yes, Ralston is correct. He's 2nd with 135.
Brad Davis.
Brad Davis is 3rd, 123.
Diego Valeri.
Diego Valeri is not on this list. That's one
Okay.
miss.
I will say that. Wait.
Landon
I will say.
Donovan?
Yes, Landon is first.
First, 136.
I will say that Brad Davis is the most recent player to hit triple
Oh,
digits.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is okay. So I've gotten 4 so far.
You've gotten 4 of the 7.
That feels
And
pretty
one thing
good.
to remember is that it used to be much
Secondary assist.
easier
Yeah.
to get a secondary
Oh,
assist
we are
in MLS.
spoon feeding this. We are spoon feeding.
I don't know if he played long enough, but I'll just guess Carlos Valderrama.
Yeah,
Pibe
100%.
is yes. Pibe
Yep.
is a correct
Okay.
answer from you. He would be, I believe, 4th on the list
So I got 5 of 7.
with 114. You still got you have an opportunity to finish this
No,
thing out.
I know, but I feel pretty good right
Okay.
now. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so we're talking early days because you said Brad Davis the most recent. We're talking assists, high MLS careers. It feels like Precky's a safe.
Oh, he's
Yep.
6 of 7. He's 6 of 7. Precky's number 5.
So what number am I?
112.
Which in the order am I missing?
You're
You
missing
are missing
7.
number 7. Yeah, you're missing
101 career assists.
Yeah,
Pre Brad Davis. a ton of
assists, Dalmatians. It's a good number.
I'm trying to think of like good teams.
Had a little
And
Disney
good
marathon
players.
yesterday. Just
Is it Rant? Well, that's not a question.
no. Let's see. He's got I think on field he maybe took some fashion cues from Cruella de Vil. Had a flow to be admired. Did enjoy him some on field jewelry. Had a nickname that Cruella would be proud of.
Are we talking about Carlos Ruiz?
Oh,
No.
I'm gonna count that as a miss.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
definitely a miss.
Yeah.
I just got the nickname thing, and then
No. Why would
Now I'm
Cruella want to be?
You're
the little fish?
absolutely like
it's an
You're
anime.
you're absolutely choking here, David. This
Yeah.
is
You're
just
drowning.
I know.
You're drowning.
I'm just proud that I got 6 of 7. So I will finish with.
I'm gonna give you a hint. He was a teammate of one of these players. They were a high profile and prolific duo in the early days of MLS.
Now I forgot all the people. I
Jesus,
named.
it's Marco Echeverry. Come on.
Come on, El Diablo.
Damn.
El Diablo.
Damn.
So, yeah, there you go. If you got those at home before Dave, please hit us up. Let us know
I
how
feel
fast.
pretty good about how I
thought
did.
it was pretty
when
good.
you give me a void to guess into, I'm garbage. If you give me multiple choice, I kill it.
All right, Dave. Give us your best thing you saw from Week 18.
Well, coming off the back of yours for the Galaxy, but I don't want to be a Galaxy-centric show because we've never done that before. I wanted to mention the Jovic Chicharito celebration that he, in a very, I feel, Serbian way, demands everyone else leave him alone in a happy moment so that he could do the one-on-one celebration with Chicharito. He looked so angry about it, but Chicharito is committed to it. He clearly is a fan of Chicharito. It feels like for a situation where everyone wants them to play together, it was probably nice to see that they like it too and that they enjoy each other, but I have to go Taxi. Hat trick on the road against Orlando. He has 9 goals in 10 MLS appearances in his career. Think about that for a second. And 3 assists. On top of that, the game was ridiculous. The game was fun, but he was awesome. So, yeah, that's the best thing I saw this weekend.
Taxi Fountas out of the Austrian league, correct? That's where he came. I want to say from maybe Vienna, Rapid Wien. Yeah. So good sign for the Revs. New DP had 17 goals in the Austrian league last year. We'll talk about that more in a second. Doyle, what's the best thing you saw? Week 18.
But Bello Reynoso, going back to the assist list, like thinking about guys like Valderrama and Echeverri, like those classic South American number 10s, Babello is like the closest thing that we have in this league to like that archetype of player, and he's been kind of hot and cold this year. Like he started off really poorly, and then some stuff got sorted out with getting his family here, and I thought he started playing better after that, but the team around him falling apart. But then this weekend, a week ago, Minnesota was in trouble, but like now they're just like a point below the playoff line, and this weekend, like he was the best player. Like, all respect to Taxi, he was the best player I saw on the field this week for any team, and he just completely dominated the first 70 minutes of that game against against RSL. It was a big 6-pointer in the Western Conference. Now they felt like Minnesota got up 3-0, all 3 goals from Babello, either score or assist. And like they were running away with it. They made it interesting because they're just doing that right now. And also, like, full credit to RSL. Like, this team does not say quit. They have that, ex-human spirit as we've sort of named it, courtesy of Pablo Mastroeni. But like Minnesota, like when Reynoso's playing like that, it almost doesn't matter. Like, he's going to create chances. He's going to glide around the field and find the ball and carve you up. And like getting that type of throwback, because like players like this don't really exist in Europe anymore. They're luxury players now, but in the Americas, in Brazil to a lesser extent, but especially in Argentina and Mexico and MLS, like, you can still find traditional number 10s. And, like, that's the type of player I grew up watching and loving. And so to see Reynoso play like this in a big game, that was the best thing I saw this weekend. And certainly for Minnesota fans, that was the best thing they saw this weekend, too, I'm sure.
A lot of resurgence and change as far as the table goes, whether it be Minnesota or Vancouver or Miami, teams that looked like sort of down and out are now rising back up and are staying alive. Bruce Arena, I thought, he's probably said it best because he knows it best. He's been around the longest. He's been doing it since '96 with very few short breaks in between other than the national team. Typical MLS season, if you win a couple games in a row, you're going to be right there, and a lot of teams feel like they are right there. Let's talk New England, 2-2 with Cincinnati. Big week for Cincy. They draw against NYCFC, though, like we talked about it, they should have won that game. But, hey, a point's a point. They came back. They showed some resolve, some verve, and they drew against New England as well. This was not a draw you would expect them to get in any of their previous 3 seasons, although I think they had one in New England before, which is kind of a random stat for this team. Vasquez didn't get the goal. It was an own goal by Henry Kessler, but he once again looks active. Brenner scores a goal once again, but the Revs' new pieces are sort of the topic of conversation today. Petrovic Barrero obviously looking really good to start. Those are replacements, respectively, for Tejan Buchanan and for Matt Turner. And now the Adam Buxa replacement is in. Giacomo Vrioni from Juve, but really from Tirol, from the Austrian Bundesliga. He had 17 goals last year. I think 21 in all comps. He's 23. He had made, a smattering of appearances for Juve. He was really sort of like Juve in name only in a lot of ways as far as first team appearances go. But it's a big signing for the Revs, and we didn't know if they'd go for the DP number 9, but it seems like it's a pretty clear indication that Josie Altidore is not going to be the answer in that position. Bruce Arena quote on the new era for the club: "It's new for the Revolution. We're trying real hard to move the club forward. We realize we've been a little bit behind. We're trying to catch up, and eventually we're going to move into a new stadium." So a lot to unpack there. That's just woo! It really
kind of buried the lead there, Bruce.
Thick and fast.
Bruce Arena takes the MLS real estate side of things very seriously.
Whoa! Slow down. What are we talking about here, Bruce?
Talking Wonderland right now?
Yeah,
we're talking World Trade Center. What's the Boston deal?
What's our total numbers? Anybody have that off the top of their head for Tejan, Turner, and Buxa? I mean, it's in the.
I think it ended up being about 24, 25. Yeah.
Yeah. So $25 million in sales, which just that sentence alone, for those of us been covering this league, paying attention, caring about this league for a long time, in a matter of, 8 months or so, is kind of crazy. But then for the Revs to go quickly sign replacements, and this is the name of the game, like, you got to have your succession strategy going, and sign young upside replacements that you expect to be sold down the line. I mean, that's my expectation here. Doyle, am I reading that wrong? And then to have Bruce make those signings too? Bruce, that in many past iterations of this league has always leaned veteran, familiar.
Not always. And we started with that list of guys with 100 assists. Marco Echeverri was 25 when he came to MLS in 1996. Jaime Moreno was 22 or 23 years old. I've always found it weird that Bruce, well, I mean, with the Galaxy, with the later days Galaxy, he veered so heavily.
That's where the rep came from, right?
Towards veterans, right? And then he did the same thing with the national team, and it kind of bit him on the ass. And he's done that despite the fact that he's been really good at developing young players throughout his career. So it looks like he's, as he hits his 70s, it looks like he's really leaning into it. And so far, Dylan Barrero, he scored that great goal this weekend. He's live wire, and he looks like a very, very good replacement for Tajon Buchanan. The goalkeeper, Georgi Petrovic, he's been fantastic. And who's to say they can't do the same thing with Vrioni? And now the difference here, though, is Vrioni is a little bit older, right? He's 24.
23. He'll be 24 October 15th.
Okay, so he's not exactly, you're not taking this kid out of the academy, right? You've seen him play at a good level. He was good enough to be, on Juventus's books more than just on their radar. So this is this kind of signing. It makes sense as sort of a rehab signing, a guy who I think you can expect to perform in MLS, and then maybe a year and a half, 2 years from now, they sell him for $10 million in the same way that they just sold Adam Buksa. And maybe, the last act of Bruce Arena's career is getting the Revs to that level where they're the Benfica of MLS. Because this is what Benfica does, right? They develop a lot of their own players. They mine Brazil for talent, but also they find guys who didn't quite make it with the Juventuses or the Man Cities of the world, and they get him in there at age 23, and by the time they're age 25, they're $45 million players. It's such a good model, and you just have to create the right baseline of veterans so that you can plug and play the newcomers. And so far, I mean, look, 2 months ago we thought that this Rev season was going into the toilet. They're unbeaten in 10. They've replaced 3 of their best 4 players from last year. And they're getting contributions from guys who we didn't necessarily think were going to give them contributions. They've done a good job of keeping afloat. And my guess is second half of the season, they're going to start making a run.
You talk about that baseline, Gustavo Bo, Heel, elite MLS attacking talent, veterans in Leggett. You have 2 outside backs that are we've talked repeatedly, among the best in the league. This is where I make a gratuitous Tommy McNamara reference just for fun. But where in this summer, Dave, do you think that they would still be targeting? Because I don't imagine it's over for them. And if I look at one spot on the field, and it's not a slight against Kessler or Farrell, just a thought to depth and upside for them, center back might be a place that I would look to.
I wouldn't say it's a slight to them. I would say it's probably more towards Omar Gonzalez, right? They clearly made a signing at center back in the offseason to fill that position. It has not worked. So I think that's, even though you're probably saying you want to bring in a guy who can compete for a starting spot, that's the issue that I think you're really filling for. But in general, I think whether they make another signing or not, I think the positive side for them is all 3 of these players ID'd the Revs as a team that can get them to the next level. And you mentioned the $25 million as an MLS point of view, but I lean on the Rev side of MLS changed in 2013-14, and the Revs stayed the same for a really long time. And so to put them on a level where Veroni, the rumors were Getafe, Sampdoria, teams in Belgium, legitimate big teams already, but teams that have a pretty good history in top 5 leagues of selling players to a higher level. And he looked at Adam Buksa and Tajon Buchanan's career path and said, this is the place to get me to the next step. Dylan Barrero left Atletico Mineiro, one of the top teams in Brazil as a young player, where he wasn't playing a ton, to come here. And I think that is the biggest part of what's happened this offseason or over the course of this season. is where the Revs stand and sort of what they've been able to sell themselves as. And they've done really good work. They were in MLS Next. I believe they were in the U19 final this weekend. But the academy's a step behind. And so they are going to cover those years where the academy's still building up to match other clubs by having these 3 sales they've already made, one of these players as well, maybe a DeJuan Jones, maybe a Kessler filling in as well, maybe Maciel, those guys. And that, I think, is the biggest thing for the Revs to be able to set themselves up this way. From on the field, though, I think this is kind of it. Veroni, I think he's a now and later player because maybe you're still hoping you do get something from Josie. But right now it works with Gustavo Bo as the center forward. Barrera's, Doyle talked about Livewire. It pulls players away. It gives room for Bo and Heel to operate underneath. And Leggett and McNamara, whoever it is, as the second 8 or second 6, they can support in those places as well with still giving Heel the space that he needs to operate because he doesn't need numbers around him at all times. So it feels like they're a pretty complete product where we stand on July 5th.
Let me just add 2 quick notes. One is they do need Matt Polster back, and we saw that this weekend. Cincinnati was able to just go straight up the gut against that sort of makeshift 2-man defensive midfield. So Polster is just 2 levels above the other guys in that mix for the Revs at D-mid. That's 1. And 2, there's a little, Tommy Scoops dropped it into, he filled in for me last weekend in my column. He just dropped a little tidbit in that don't necessarily count on DeJuan Jones still being in New England at the end of the year. There is substantial interest in him from primarily, I believe, the Bundesliga. So we could see another big transfer from the Revs who've done so well with it. It could end up being they need to start really targeting left back in this transfer window.
Oh, what a time to be a Revs fan, man. What a time. Some numbers for you that we didn't even mention it. We probably should have. The fee reportedly from Fabrizio Romano and others on Veroni is $3.8 million plus bonuses. That seems like a pretty good number for them. I mean, you're looking at sort of the difference in what they sold those 3 players, in particular Buxa, for. So it definitely seems like this is sort of a, hey, let's buy not relatively low, but let's not go for the highest profile player. We'll go for a guy that we think we can build into more value. And the contract is through 2025. There's a 1-year club option for 2026 as far as control on Giacomo Veroni. Look forward to seeing him get in the lineup, seeing what he can do with the Revs. How about Brenner? Another goal for Brenner. We already did this, I believe, on the last show with Charlie. Dave and I did, Doyle. But now I want your take because we had a absolute squad of Cincy people hit us up here. So Michael has lost his zeal, said, is Brenner having his David Goss theorem moment? Michael Rice said, will Brenner end up with a golden boot or get sold to improve the defense? Analia asked, who will have the better career, Brenner or Tati? Just a lot just so much to unpack. It really just a thought experiment in my mentions going on as far as Brenner goes. Should they sell Brenner? Maybe they shouldn't.
They paid $12 million for him, right? They're going to have to rehabilitate him to the point where he's producing like Tati on both sides of the ball. And this is the thing that people sleep on with Tati, is that he's not just a Golden Boot winner. He is by miles the best defensive forward in MLS. He's absolutely amazing defensively. So Pat Noonan has done a great job of sort of rehabilitating Brenner as a soccer player, and he was arguably the worst regular starter of any forward in the league last year. And this year, he has not been a regular starter, but now that he's worked into it, he's finding chances, he's scoring goals, and he's being a decent part of link play. But he's still there's a lot of work that needs to be done on Brenner, and I think if they were to sell him now, they would be lucky to recoup half of what they spent on him. So if you have a 22-year-old striker who is talented and you have an attack that is prolific, as Cincy's is, and you have a coach who comes from a system that has traditionally gotten the most out of players defensively, why rush to sell? Why not give Pat Noonan time to continue polishing these gems, and not just Brenner, obviously Brennan Vasquez, who has another year on his contract, and a few other guys on this team as well. Give him time. Maybe win something too. And then, a year from now, we'll see what the market looks like. But I absolutely do not think that Cincy should be in any rush to sell any of these guys. Like, they have something really good cooking right here with this group. So just continue to let it ride and continue to enjoy watching these guys perform at this level.
Matt Miazga as a signing for Cincy, yay or nay?
I say yay.
As a DP?
I don't think as a DP.
This was a debate you missed last week.
Yes, I just wanted to see, put it out and see where it came back. I think we agree. How
to
about
be
this?
clear for everyone out there, low-end DP allows you to open up your 3 under 22 spots, which allows you to bring in more talent to your team. Not every DP is made the same. I want to just throw out there, just from an entertainment point of view, the Acosta, Brenner, Vasquez 3. Doyle talked about the interchange, the link up. It's awesome. Brenner understands right now when to drop in. Vasquez moves center backs. Acosta makes runs off them. All 3 of them are clean in possession. They have a clear understanding right now of where each other's going. And it's really fun to watch. And even in moments in this Revs game where they were against the ball and they were deeper, those 3 can break out by themselves. And so they're always worth watching.
One thing I'll flag for people, if you're watching that trio or you're just trying to keep an eye, there's little movements within the game that are fun to watch. One of my favorite things in MLS this year is just to watch Lucho and how he sort of creates space for himself to receive the ball, whether it be facing back lines or how he uses movement, his own and others, to get facing a back line. Like the way he drops in, the way he sort of hovers on shoulders, the way he backpedals into space, where he recognizes where the ball's going to go and how it's going to rotate and how he can best be positioned to receive it. It's just so fun. And then he's always had that little 2-3 step burst that gets him by people into passing positions. And he's so clean with that little through ball and finding these guys. So really fun team. So fun that they're getting results. And with results come plaudits. Jack Emery, should Pat Noonan be in the coach of the year conversation, if not the favorite, doing more with almost the same squad that won the wooden spoon last year? Love how in Cincy that you win wooden spoons. The spin. It's all about PR spin, baby. We won 3 straight. What do you think? Coach of the year. We also had Bobby Sink hit us up and says, handicap the coach of the year race, please. Is it Brian Schmetzer's to lose, given he already won CCL? Wilfred Nance's got to be in there. So if we had 3 finalists.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Before we do this, because I just did my all-star ballot. Are we counting CCL in all of this? I love it.
I do.
It's hard not to.
Just across all MLS awards and whatever. CCL counts.
I don't think that you could, if you were doing MVP or you were in, you're like, okay,
Right.
well, goal plus assist, you wouldn't be like, okay, well, Christian Roldan did this. Or these goals scored by Rui Diaz sort of add into the total. But there is a vibe check element of it.
Does Open Cup count? Like if Orlando wins Open Cup, if Red Bulls win Open Cup, does that count in all this?
I don't think it would come as strongly into the equation as CCL would.
Got it. Okay.
But
Just
it's
asking
again,
questions.
it's a vibes check thing. It's how do you feel? Who would our top 3 candidates for coach of the year be at this point, and would Pat Noonan be among them?
I'd have Noonan, Nance, and Schmetzer, and apologies to Steve Cherundolo.
And apologies to Struber, no?
Yeah,
Probably
apologies to
apologies
Gerhard
to Josh Wolf
Struber
as well.
And Josh Wolf. Okay, so there we go. We're now at 6.
Yeah. I think this is the toughest category right now in MLS, which is great. But yeah, that would be my 3 in order and 6 overall.
Who would be your winner right now? Would Pat Noonan have a shout to be the winner for you, Doyle?
Yeah. I would be fine with any of those 6. I would probably go with Pat Noonan because it's not just they didn't just have a couple of guys get hot and carry them through a month. This was legit the worst team in MLS history. The worst team in MLS history over the course of 3 seasons. And he's got them going on the road, missing their starting central midfielders and getting a point. He's got them playing, some of the most attractive attacking soccer. He's got them in the playoffs, man. This turnaround is what Wilfred Nancy's done, taking a team building from year 1 to year 2, just linear improvement, is like really impressive. Obviously, what Schmetzer's done, winning CCL, and then turning around and having literally a 90-minute hangover. When in the past we've seen teams make deep CCL runs and it ruins their entire season. The Sounders had a 90-minute hangover. They lost arguably their best player. And they're going to end up, second or third in the West at worst? Like, there's really good arguments for those two guys. There's good arguments for Wolf. Again, linear improvement. Struber, Cherundolo. Like, they're there. You can make those arguments. I'm here for them. I will listen to them, and I'll probably nod along to most of it. But since they were the worst team in the freaking world, they were a joke for 3 years. And they're definitely not a joke, man. They're like, this team is so good. They're so much fun to watch. And he's done it with largely the same personnel from last year. To me, I would have to flip a coin between him and Schmetzer at this point.
All right, let's get into some more plaudits. We're going to get the best signing, the best trade so far, and we're going to link them to some games from Week 18. If you weren't watching, tracking, even just like in real time, checking Twitter for the highlights of Orlando, DC, inevitably you missed something. 8 goals, 5-3 win for DC. We mentioned Taxi with the hat trick, the production from him. A lot about. Take us through the narrative of this from your point of view, Dave. Like, who's the ESPN guy, Windhorse, who just had the.
Do not associate me with him. I'm not.
Yeah, but you remember, the 2 minutes. The 2 minutes he did, where he's like, "What's gonna happen?"
Do I know?
Would Orlando
go
defend like that?
Go Shakespeare. Go
Why
Shakespeare.
would Orlando defend like that?
His favorite line is, executives at the league level are watching this. They are very intrigued on what is going on. I don't know why Orlando would defend that way. This has been an issue for Orlando. I just read, honestly. For Orlando over and over again, which is that there's no consistency to the way they play, and there's a disconnect just across all 3 levels of the team, from each other and then from individuals. Kyle Smith got roasted in those first 15 minutes. Fontas was there to take advantage of it, but not like Schlegel defended better down the middle. It was a mess across the board for them. And then they, credit to them, I guess, fought back to an extent. And Taxi Fontas at that point was too good and the best player on the field. To be honest, I turned it off because I thought this game was over. And so then I had to tune back in and figure out what the hell happened, because I was like 2-0 down in Orlando, halftime, no chance. Turned out I was wrong and right at the same time.
Yeah, it was Orlando are hitting us up, Doyle, and they want some real talk on the state of the club. And there were some folks asking whether perhaps Oscar Pereira should be on the hot seat. What's your Orlando? Yeah, I had the same that look you just gave. I had the same look when I saw that. I just wanted to mention it just to sort of frame the conversation. What should the conversation be around Orlando? They're making a run for the Open Cup. They might host the dang thing, the final, depending on what they do in the semis. I would say it's been up and down, and a good part disappointing and sometimes encouraging in the league. 25 points, they're right on the line. For Cincy, that's encouraging. For Orlando, that's not encouraging. Walk me through the state of the Lions.
No, I think you just nailed it. It's been really weirdly up and down. They can't find a balance in deep central midfield. And I think if there's one big disappointment from this team this year for me, it's that Jackson Mendes has taken a step backwards. Like, he's not as good.
How is he taking a step backwards if he's never on the field?
Knew it.
He was on the field last night. He was on the field last night, and he stunk, David.
That was bait. That was bait for David.
he has not been good when he's played this year, right? And then so you're left with Araujo in central midfield, and like he's been good, but he's very young and he's limited. Junior Urso, because none of the Chris Mueller left and Van der Vaart was terrible, so they sold him. Like, none of the wingers have really developed, so Junior Urso has had to play this weird sort of attacking winger, half central midfielder type of thing. It feels like Pareja is having to scramble to put together a coherent team, and most weeks it's not a coherent team. At the same time, any Orlando fan who thinks he should be fired, thinks he should be on the hot seat. Do you not remember what this club was the first 5 years of its existence? Like, this is absolutely absurd. And especially this year, they sold Daryl Dike. Nani's gone. Chris Mueller is gone. Like, they had to remake the entire attack. Like, there's going to be... there's going to be peaks and valleys, man. And so the fact that they're still above the playoff line, which, again, is not a place that Orlando City ever was there before Oscar Pereja got there. The fact that they're above the playoff line, the fact that they are, 3 games away from winning a trophy,
2.
People got to chill with the idea that he should be on any sort of hot seat.
The tweeters doth complain too much is the line that I was thinking. I was like, whoa, we went pretty far with that one. Let's go on the Taxi Fontas conversation. Best signing of 2022. Would Taxi be the best signing? Would it be sort of like, recency bias for us to anoint him as such? Or would he legitimately be that
9 goals,
dude?
3 assists, and 10 appearances?
Yeah, I know.
Tough to argue with you. He did it before this week, and it would have been 6 goals and 3 assists and 9 appearances.
It still would have been real good.
Yeah, take away the hat trick. It's still pretty good numbers. This is one of those fun ones because is the quality of the signing, because, how much it was or where you got it from. All of those things, what makes the best signing? To me, Luquinhas has been. It hasn't been easy to find a true 10 that fits the Red Bull system to a T. They went out and got a guy who is capable of magical moments that can break teams down that the Red Bulls just couldn't find wins or ties in those moments in the past, on top of the fact that he fits their pressing system, and Gerhard Stuber has turned the speed all the way back up, and he fits in perfectly. So I think because of how tough it is to find that guy, it's even bigger to me that Red Bulls found him, and at his age, you assume he's a guy who can now be around for a while, which is another thing they've struggled to be able to put their finger on.
We'll get to the Red Bulls 1-0 win in Kansas City. I'm going to go another standout from the weekend off the bench. Probably shouldn't be there, but Leo Campana would be my best signing of 2022 so far. Inter Miami kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place when it came to the cap, and obviously not following the cap as well, and signing Gonzalo Higuain, who once again did not really look up to it this weekend against Dallas as well. But Leo Campana comes on and scores in the 89th minute, and the dude has done nothing but produce. And so for Miami and for Chris Henderson to go out and find a guy like that on loan, and we're talking, Doyle, you're talking about the Revs, like rehabilitating players with pedigree and finding them at the right age and giving them an opportunity. Leo Campana fits into that perfectly. He may go play at the World Cup. He's on loan right now. You would hope that a good, reasonable purchase option was negotiated as part of this loan, and that they're able to trigger that and get him in and get a couple more good years out of him as they try to build up and progress. But Inter Miami are not the joke that they were at the end of last season or the beginning of this one. What is it like?
It's like the sanctions are almost the best thing that ever happened to them because they had to stop aiming for these kind of ridiculous
Stop living
signings.
the fast life, baby. Like, settle down a little bit. Let's settle down and be responsible.
Well, I mean, they gave Phil Neville, it made him develop the young players on the team and the front office instead of focusing on trying to woo over the whatever World Cup winner from 2018 was left standing. They were just focused on signing like good solid players that you could build a team around. And so now they have this foundation, and when they get out from under the sanctions a year and a half from now, like this foundation's still going to be there, and they'll have the ability to make some like really significant additions for that season. But like it by like hamstringing them, their ability to build the roster, it turned them into a real team. And it's a team that's actually fun to watch. And over the past couple of months, I think they're like 6-4-4 since he benched Higuain. Like, they've been one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, and they were never anything close to that in the previous 2 seasons.
Hoping Leo Campana sticks around. One of those players that's been really fun to watch so far in MLS. Doyle, give us your signing of 2022.
It's Albert Rusnak. And like I wanted to be clever.
How much did Anders pay you for that?
He did not. He did
We had
not
a separate
pay me.
category that was just Anders Rusnak, and did he promise you airtime? Did he?
He still takes
Maybe
care
the
of the
opposite,
cats.
I don't know.
That's
Yeah,
that's
maybe
what
the
it is. No, like the reason you make signings is to win titles, and the big title for every MLS team was the CCL, and Seattle went out this offseason in the winter, and they made their big signing. And we know Garth Lagerwey does not like to do that. We know that he likes to wait till summer to give a team an inject, kind of a burst of energy mid-season, or because it's just cheaper to get players in the summer. But they went all in to win CCL, and they did it. And they would not have won that title. They would not be going to the Club World Cup if not for Albert Rusnak. And not to say that he was the best player or he's the only reason. Certainly neither of those is true. But like they needed a piece to put them over the top, and they got that. And now, they're going to the Club World Cup. You can't beat that as a signing. The only other the clever thing I was going to say was going to be like John Thornton changed his entire approach to what kind of signings LAFC should make.
I'll let you be clever.
Okay.
I can take you there.
All right, go ahead.
LAFC did not win over the weekend. Vancouver Whitecaps, who are I forgot to mention them as one of those teams that are like on the upswing now after being on the hard downswing. Under Kubas with the goal on this one. LAFC didn't play their first team, but Vancouver has lost once in 9 games. 1-0 win for them. Kubas could go into the signing of the season to be down the line. But you're talking probably more about the trades of 2022, unless you're talking Ilie, who would go into the Rusnak category as a free agent midfielder.
It's kind of all of the above with LAFC, right? Like we focus on, and I think MLS fans in general focus on guys who are being imported into the league. But if you look at how the smarter teams do their work, like they do a really good job of finding value from within the league. And they found that with Ilie, who they signed as a free agent. And then they made trades for Ryan Hollingshead, Kellen Acosta, Maxime Crepeau, like Ismail Tajiri-Shradi. These guys have given LAFC a kind of solidity that I don't think they've ever really had. Like, they've been spectacular. They've been incredible at times, but they've never actually been just solid. This year, I think because of that sort of change in mindset from the front office, they're just like 4 levels more solid than we've ever seen from them in the past. And now that they have that solidity, they're doing stuff like adding Gareth Bale and shopping maybe for another DP on top of it. And like, so yeah, I mean, trade, acquisition, whatever, changing like that in one window, changing the entire club's ethos when it comes to talent acquisition and like successfully identifying what had gone wrong, that's really impressive to me. It's really, really impressive to me.
Can I ask you a question? This is on my assignment sheet for the rest of the day, so this is like I'm cheating. On paper, this LAFC team, when Chiellini, when Bale come in, and that's, I mean, as soon as El Trafico on Friday on ESPN, who would have a better lineup, 11, on paper in MLS history? Would there be any? And where will Bale plug into that lineup? Because I'm looking at Tom's depth charts on the Google Docs here, and he has Bale at striker. But if they're going to go get a 9 and they have a Rongo, feels like left wing might be more of a spot for him, but then you might be asking a lot of him defensive. How does this all shake out, and where would that 11 stand? This is open season for both of you.
I would say the 3 teams that pop to mind would be the last Beckham teams, where you had pretty much like the back line was
LD, Prime Omar.
Yeah, all the draft picks on the back line that were borderline MNT guys, if not ones in Omar. Mike McGee, right? All of that. I would say the 2017 TFC team, where you start Victor Vasquez, Jonathan Osorio. At that point, is in and out of the lineup. So pretty solid across the board. And then 2014 Sounders, maybe, would come to mind with Dempsey and Obafemi Martins. Gonzalo Pineda was really good that year. Chad Marshall, Ozzy, Stephen Fry, guys like that. I guess Yedlin was in that team at some point before he got sold at the World Cup as well. I think he started the year in MLS and then got sold after the World Cup. Those would be the 3 11s that pop out to me.
Would you have maybe with the 13 Red Bulls with Thierry and Cahill? Like, we're talking on paper here, so remember. I'm trying to think of ones that
I wouldn't have them ahead of the Atlanta United teams, right? With Parkhurst,
the Almiron Joseph, MLS Cup
Tito
winning team.
Villalba. Yeah.
Doyle, where would this LAFC team on paper be? Where do you think Bale will play?
I mean, I think he'll play as a center forward. I honestly think they'll play him as a center forward with this, where he just runs. As for where they are on paper, I don't know. Like in that top tier, right? I still think the 2019 LAFC team is just in terms of how they played. I still think that's the best team that I've ever seen in MLS. Though I guess on paper, they're starting guys like Jordan Harvey. Nobody knew that Mark Anthony Kaye was that kind of central midfielder. Right? It doesn't look quite as impressive on paper. So I don't know. Top tier.
That's fine. You've done some yeoman work for me as I work to write this column later today. Remember though, Friday, Jimmy Conrad on Twitch, YouTube live, doing a watch along, doing what only Jimmy can do, which is one man band in that thing. Should be an awesome time. Hopefully Bale gets a start. If not, off the bench. We'll see what role Chiellini plays. Maybe just guy to have water poured over the top of his head as they chant if they win the thing. And then of course the Galaxy. God knows. They won, but God knows what's going on with the Galaxy in some ways as well. So we're doing the best trade. Shinashiki would be in there as well. I took us off base here. Shinashiki, by the way, another goal. Charlotte with their first win on the road in Houston this weekend, 2-1 for Charlotte. This is the first ever road win for Charlotte as Ache arrives and watches in Houston. He will be available as well, Hector Herrera, against FC Dallas on Saturday night. So that's another big debut coming up for a recent arrival in MLS. So Shinashiki has 4 goals and assists in about 522 minutes. But Dave, would he be your best trade of 2022, or is there another deal you would point to?
He would be up there in that convo. I think still the LAFC guys, some of them would be over him.
As a Montreal, Alistair Johnson, would you throw Alistair in there?
Obviously, I'm a fan of Alistair Johnson. He's made them more flexible. He's taken Zachary Brogard out of the lineup a lot of times, which is a good thing for them. He's helped them cover for some injuries. I don't know that he's been the shining light, so I don't know that I'd put him in there. One, that his team hasn't been great, but Jamiro Montero, 3 goals, 5 assists for about $400,000 in allocation money is a good trade for San Jose, and obviously half the year is Matias Almeida, so you aren't really going to get the team results, but that doesn't mean it should go completely underlooked. And inside league play, Maxi Urruti should be up there as well. He's been big for Austin FC. They got him as a free agent out of Houston in the
6
offseason.
goals, including. Did he get one last night?
He did. He got one. They took it off for VAR. He scored like 5 minutes later and then just runs off doing the VAR sign in celebration. It was Maxi Urruti to a T.
That's good stuff. Austin, they're reading their press. They are reading their press. We'll talk more about them in a second. I'd throw Mark Delgado in there as among the biggest, if not just absolutely crucial to what the Galaxy are trying to do. And maybe they'll have another one this week in Alejandro Pozuelo, which we'll talk about in a second, or maybe he'll go outside the league. TBD. Would be nice to see them even just try to get a rental on him for the rest of the year and see what it would mean for this team. I will say Paul Arriola is very clearly the best trade so far in MLS this year, among the leaders in expected goals and expected assists combined, and just producing and on both sides of the ball. We talk about Tati, defensive, and then the attacking side. Paul Arriola is that in winger form. And if you're Charlotte, you got to be regretting maybe not paying the money up front. Although who knows, maybe they'll sign somebody big in the summer. But for Dallas, that has been an absolutely critical move to be made, and it's wonderful for the national team as well to have him and Jesus Ferreira together. I would also throw just an underrated one going back to Miami, Bryce Duke. Not a name that anybody was like wowed by when that one was made, but just to go back to what Miami's doing, just an underrated core young guy building signing. All right, big matches. We sort of referred to Tati a couple times. He's not gone yet, and he's tied for the Golden Boot lead. He scores. NYCFC draws against Atlanta United. Nick Cushing does not have a win yet in 5 games, Doyle. Atlanta fight back in this one. What's going on with NYCFC?
Yeah, it just looks like a weird level of passivity where maybe they're just not quite bought in with the new guy. Like Ronnie Dyla had this team humming before they left. Like, they were just completely locked in, miserable to play against. Obviously, one of the best attacks in the league. And now with Nick Cushing, like, I mean, I hate to boil it down to he hasn't changed the system at all. He hasn't changed much in terms of the players. He's gotten Anton Tinnerholm back, and you saw that for half the game against Atlanta. Like, they are so much more dangerous with him getting forward and, you know, stretching teams out horizontally. They should be better, but they're just like, I don't know. They just don't seem as up for it, which is a weird thing to say because this is a championship team. They were great under Ronnie Dyla for the past 18 months or so, and I don't know. Like, sometimes the new coach comes in and sparks a team, but I guess it's different with this group because, like, Ronnie Dyla wasn't fired; he left. Like, he took a different job that obviously he felt was a better job, and maybe when that happens, it's hard to hear the new guy. It's hard to play as hard because if this last coach that you just won a championship with left for greener pastures, what are you thinking as a player? And over the final 20 minutes of that game, maybe not 20, but 10 or 15 minutes of that game against Atlanta, just weirdly passive. And it was the same thing that we saw against them, especially in the Open Cup. They got absolutely murked by the Red Bulls. Like, this is... NYCFC has been a lot of things over the past few years. They've not been a passive team. They've not been a team that just lets the game happen. They're almost always the protagonists. Well, for good chunks of games, they're being super passive now. And I can't imagine it has to do with anything other than, like, a new coach is in, so the vibe has changed.
Let me throw two things out there. One is, under Dyla to close, they were destroying MLS. Just rattling off in order, it was RSL, TFC, San Jose, SKC, Columbus, DC, Chicago, Minnesota. So outside of RSL, not a playoff team in there. And I think that maybe skews a little bit. Now Nick Cushing comes in, you're playing more competitive teams. You're playing on the road, double games in a week. I mean, they went at Philly, at Cincinnati, home to Atlanta, right, in 7 days. So I think part of that has to stand out. I do feel... And I don't know if it's the injury. I don't know if it's age. I don't know if it's what I think I'm seeing, and it's not true. I think Maxime Chanot's taken a step back this year. Thiago Martins hasn't been ready to step in. He's not healthy right now. And so I think there are holes defensively that didn't exist before. You also add in Tinnerholm being away. You add in now Keaton Parks being out again, and some issues they've had at defensive midfield, rotating guys. You add in James Sands missing as well. There is not the same defensive depth, even though there is similar depth on the team because they've added another attacking piece in Pereira and been, you know, even more scary sometimes going forward. So I think there are a few places that you could worry about. I'm interested with Tinnerholm back. Does Tavon Gray get a shot at center back? That is what he came up as, and he's only played right back really in Major League Soccer. But I'd be curious to see that happen for NYCFC. Overall, I think Doyle would agree. You're not worried about that. Like, they're going to be they're going to get a home playoff game. They're going to be an MLS Cup contender.
Yeah, but it might end up feeling like Dome's half season.
Yeah.
Like a little disjointed, not quite at the full potential.
Yep.
Tyus Magno, I just want to shout out again. Just awesome player. Looks like a great signing for them. Tati not gone. Like, the window's just opening, so we're just started here. Would you guarantee he moves? Are NYCFC going to have to budge on the number? I mean, I guess maybe we're biased. Maybe this is MLS bias. $15 million for Tati seems like a pretty good value, all things considered. I don't know.
I'm not guaranteeing anything, man.
But also, like, the guy scored 2 goals, right? He's handling this better than Vela did, and he's 10 years younger or whatever. Like, I guess for NYCFC fans, you'd say, one, who cares? Because there is so much talent, and if he's going to play this well while it's being talked about, then it is what it is.
Let me put this out there. Are we all hoping that Tati ends up at Leeds United
with
Tyler Adams and
didn't they drop
Brendan
another
Aronson?
$24 million on the Feyenoord winger as well? I mean, they're spending cash.
He just seems like a perfect fit.
If that is indeed the case, I am already, I don't I'm already Leeds TID as it stands with these
Said like someone
acquisitions.
who's never actually been to Leeds.
1,000%. That's right. And
Or
probably
said
will
that
never-
term before because it came out
Yep,
very
and
slowly.
Yep, and will never probably ever go to Leeds. But if they get Tati, I am willing to commit and also to do an entire contest around a full America style nickname for them. I hope so. I hope so. I want to see his ambition rewarded, and I think he would be a good sort of trial balloon as well for other signings that come into the league. I mean, that's important for MLS as a whole, as well as NYCFC. It would change their upside, no doubt about it. But I hope so for Tati. And if not, I guess we'll hear more about how River Plate wants him.
Is it just Leeds United States? Is that just how it goes?
See, you've already won it.
Yeah.
You just stepped straight in and won that thing. Well done. How about here quickly in Atlanta? First place, Group B, Dr. 481 says, how would other teams in the league handle having 19 large impact injuries in the first half of the season? Is Atlanta United doing well or badly considering the circumstances? Let's focus on the second one. Are they doing well or badly considering the circumstances?
Doing incredibly well. I don't think that many teams could have handled the amount of injuries that they've dealt with this year, and not just guys on the periphery, but like their entire spine. They're all all three of their D mids have been injured. Their best center back injured. Their starting goalkeeper injured. Both fullbacks now injured. Their MVP striker injured. Their DP winger injured half the it's been absurd the amount that they've had to deal with. The fact that they're at all relevant speaks well of Gonzalo Pineda and the amount of talent that they still have on that roster. At the same time, I will be 0% surprised if this team isn't able to climb above the line and make the playoffs. It's just at some point, they're going to hit a wall because they're just trying to squeeze blood from a stone.
Although they've also not had the attacking four together more than now, a game and a half? So there's also the flip side, which is it could get better for them in the attack as those guys play together. I completely agree with you, though. I mean, the guys they're starting are guys who were not on the roster when they started the year because they were with Atlanta United, too, in spots in this defense and on this back line. So, it's been pretty tough for them. I don't know if we're at the point where you start to say, is it a coincidence or is there something wrong? I don't know enough about all the injuries and the setup and all of that. It hadn't happened much in the past, but it's a lot of injuries, and it's pretty unfortunate, and it seems the Brooks Lennon one is a gut punch of okay, this is what our team is now, and then he gets hurt in warm-ups. It's just brutal.
Couldn't even get through warm-ups. Yep. Toronto FC 0, Sounders 2. I'll give you the quick notes from Anders on the Sounders. Freddie Montero is not washed. Producer Anders is a big Dylan Tevez fan, and Seattle has a good shot for the 2 seed in the West. Now that we're through that part of it, let's hit the Toronto side. Maybe we go quick here. Insigne is in town. Obviously, they're going to have to change things up. I believe his first opportunity to play is this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. Carlos Salcedo is in Mexico, tending to a family emergency. He got roasted.
He's also sending very cryptic tweets.
Well, God, love a cryptic tweet. Or have we got any Instagram reporting on him? I'll report back here in a little bit after I
He and Pasquello were both outside of Toronto on Instagram this weekend, as you said already. He was in Mexico for family issues. Pasquello was also not in the city.
Pozuelo is in the city today, but not training with the full team, reports Michael Singh, who's also reporting that the interest from Toronto FC, an Italian international and former Juve winner, Federico Bernardeschi, is very much real, and the feeling is mutual. Also, Michael is reporting that, confirming another report that the trade could be finalized this week involving a designated player. Apparently, Salcedo is being, Kieran Dyer is saying Salcedo is being shopped in Mexico and the U.S. Pozuelo got in a screaming match with Bob Bradley, with Stalteri. Anyway, things aren't going very well, and it feels like change is coming in Toronto, and that the teardown might get torn down.
I can also confirm Michael Singh will be on MLS Today tomorrow. The rumors can be confirmed, so tune in 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Confirmed.
Yeah.
What it seems like is that we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about Toronto on the next couple of shows, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It does.
Yeah.
So we'll save that talk for when things aren't just being reported via Instagram.
Is
and
there?
other
I just want to
cryptic
know
tweets.
if there is a fan who is better serviced on the planet than any Italian-based Toronto fans. Or sorry, Toronto-based Italian fan. There is no one who it's like when they do their thing, right? When they put in that survey before and after every year where they're like, what do you want to see from the club? What could make you want to come more? What do you
10 out of
enjoy?
10.
Man, they are getting full marks. If Del Piero came out of retirement, it would be the only way to make it higher.
This kind of sums things up for Toronto right now. TFC NU hit us up, said, with one DP in Mexico, one DP openly getting into screaming matches with his coach on the pitch, and the big, fresh new one still nursing a calf problem. How screwed are TFC? Bob Bradley's got some work to do. So we'll see what that work looks like in the next week or so, because remember, he's one of the few soccer czars left in MLS, which is to say he controls all of it on the soccer side. So he'll be making some big decisions.
Shout out to Leo Chu, by the way. It took someone to dust Carlos Salcedo, and he did so.
Yeah, he did dust him quite well. Sporting KC 0 at home. New York Red Bulls 1. Anders in the rundown described this as gritty. Might have been a step or two past gritty on the gritty scale for the Red Bulls. They went down to 10 men and still hung on. Aaron Long with the set piece goal. Another sort of low point for Sporting Kansas City this weekend. That's 500 games coached for Peter Vermees, though, so big congratulations to him. And it was a first start for Caden Pierre, who is among KC Hope, sort of a next generation of players coming up. Let's hit Tyler Adams here. Tyler Adams to Leeds, and we're hitting it because it seems like about $8 million could go to the Red Bulls on this deal. And remember, it seemed
That's
like they.
two more Patrick Klamalas.
Oh, how many XG is that though?
How many Ashley Fletchers is
God,
that?
it's just
How-
like they're
would you
swimming
rather-
in XG?
Who wins in a fight? 2 Patrick Klamalas or 8 Ashley Fletchers?
Woo. What about 100 Kyrie Shelton?
I'll tell you what, it's just one Tom Barlow. You only
Okay.
need one. Go
Okay.
Badgers.
Yeah, you just one Tom.
Big
Tyler
Ted
Adams to
dominating
Leeds.
LA. Go
We had
Badgers.
Tom Bogert in here running game on this. Of course, Fabrizio Romano coming in. We kind of thought it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't a possibility. But Adams reunites with his Red Bulls coach on multiple continents, in multiple leagues, New York and RB Leipzig.
Maybe
Good move.
maybe we should call them Reeds Bull United. Take the Leeds, add in the red.
Reeds.
That's terrible. That's terrible. No, move past that, Weeby.
Just trying to workshop it. Just see how it feels on the tongue. What do you think, Doyle? Good move? Good move? Bad move?
So
Lukewarm move? What?
obvious lukewarm move, I think. 2 years ago, if you had asked, U.S. soccer fans and probably Tyler Adams himself, like, what kind of team do you want to move to? The answer probably would not have been Premier League team that has a decent chance of being relegated. And that's what Leeds are, right? They're probably not going to be relegated. I think they'll end up closer to 13th, 14th than what they were this last season, which was like holding their breath on the final day of the season. But they're a potential relegation team. 2 years ago, he was a guy who was starting in a Champions League semifinal. He scored a goal in Champions League semifinal. That it seemed like he was going to end up at a team, if not necessarily top 6, then top 8 at least, a Europa League style team in the Premier League. But he had a pretty miserable season, and what we saw in Leipzig was that he couldn't make the jump as a possession player at D-mid. He could not improve on his weaknesses enough to be an asset once they moved away from pure smash bang energy drink football. When he plays in central midfield, he does not set tempo. It's the same thing with the national team. It's why this past camp we saw a double pivot. And Greg Berhalter came out and said, we're playing a double pivot now because Tyler came up short during qualifying in terms of doing some of the stuff that we asked with him playing as a single pivot. And this goes back to 2017, 2018, when he made this move to when he was getting on the radar in Europe in the first place and made this move to RB Leipzig in the first place, I always said he's got a higher ceiling as a right back, because when you're playing as a right back, the game mostly happens in front of you. You don't necessarily need to have 360-degree vision. And if you look at his best moments with Leipzig, it came with him playing as a right back or a right wing back. As a defensive midfielder, he's just not that player. He's a guy who I think Jesse's going to put him into that system at Leeds and going to have him be an all-field destroyer. But he's not going to be setting tempo. He's not going to be moving the ball around. He's going to be winning the ball. He's going to be stopping opponent transition moments, and he's going to be tracking back and protecting the back line. But he's not going to blossom into this all-around number 6 that I think a lot of us hoped he would sort of become. So it's kind of a lukewarm move. It's going to be great for his bank account. He's playing in the league that I think basically every American player wants to play in. Like, they all want to be playing in the Premier League, unless they're at like a Juve or a Barcelona level team. So it, like, by that, like, he's going to be a Premier League starter. So by that, it's a great move for him. But in terms of like what he is as a player, it feels like he topped out in central midfield at a lower level than I think a lot of us had hoped.
Got any more Leeds United puns, Dave?
No, I'm still reeling from the fact that he started a Champions League semifinal in central midfield, but that his top is at right back. I don't know we were going back there.
He started the Champions League semifinal at right wing back.
No, first of all, he played center mid out of that position the whole time anyway, right? Because everything.
What do you mean the whole time?
Everything was bringing him inside. That was the entire point of the position. And then last year, the
not.
most he started in the Premier or in the Bundesliga
Absolutely was not.
in his career was under Jesse Marsch, essentially. So I disagree with the fullback part. I agree.
He had a miserable year last year. The reason why he's going to Leeds is because he played badly last year.
2 years ago. He started 21 games 2 seasons ago. I think it was. Not this year. But I agree with most of what Doyle said. I think, if I tracked most of it, I think it's a good move for him. He's also stepping in to replace Calvin Phillips, who just got sold to Manchester City for $45 million. So when you talk about pathway and opportunity, this may not be a signing for the rest of his life at Leeds United, but clearly it will be watched. And if you are successful, you can move to another team or move somewhere else. And I don't know that there were a ton of openings in his position in the top 6 teams in the top 5 leagues in Europe, right? So you kind of have to go based off opportunity as well. He needs to be playing. I still think when you saw a lot of the holes in his game, not the holes in his game, but the lack of quality and crispness on the ball in the things he does do, it was worse this year than it was at the start of qualifying. And I think that's because he wasn't playing and he wasn't on the ball and he wasn't in games week in and week out at Red Bull. So all of that's positive. And from a U.S. point of view, that's what you want to see because he needs to be playing going into the World Cup.
Yeah, course correction, I think, like career-wise, it feels like to me, you start losing minutes, you start losing sort of profile within your club. Like, there's a lot of things worse than going to a club that seems to be at least ambitious in this transfer window and overall, but also has a manager that trusts in you and has trusted in you at multiple stops in the past and clearly is asking for you to be in his team to replace a guy that's moving on and creating a big hole. So now it's up to Tyler. How does he fill that hole? What's he do in the Premier League? Can he make that jump? And you would think a jump in responsibility within the team and role within the team. Are we jacked up just to watch him and Aronson on the field together? I mean, just from a strictly like American fan perspective, plus being managed by Jesse
and potentially Tati.
That's pretty fun.
Jack Harrison.
Jack Harrison. God, speak it all into existence. Yeah. Let's go. I'm excited for that. Real quick, Sporting Kansas City, there was a Spoon question on them. Will their summer additions be enough to raise them out of Spoon contention? Those summer additions are not yet in the country, based on my understanding. So how would you handicap the Spoon race right now, and does Kansas City have a chance to win it?
Handicap.
16 points, bottom of the entire league.
I haven't done a strength of schedule breakdown for the Spoon. So
I'm actually with Spoon teams, I'm not sure it actually matters. Just sort of seems like doesn't matter who they play, they mostly don't get the job done. I'll give you a choice between them, Toronto, DC, Chicago, and San Jose. Who would be your favorite among that fivesome there?
I would say KC because also they'll have Open Cup, right? So they'll be more focused on another competition than MLS at some point, even though it's 2 games left. But you have to think around those games, especially if they win the semifinal, that they're resting players, that they're focusing more on that.
Okay. Let's hit the gas here real quick. 0-0, Union and Columbus. A lot of draws for the Union. That's the way it goes. Andre Blake saved the PK. Caleb Porter was not happy about an offside call that was entirely correct. The smoking gun angle just shows very clearly that Eric Hurtado is obstructing Andre Blake in an offside position. So instant replay presented by Cheez-It has you covered there. Full show on YouTube. We have a shorter show that goes on MLSsoccer.com. We're still waiting for Cucho for the Crew. But our 22 under 22 player of the weekend presented by Body Armor is Paxton Aronson, and not for this. It's for the pinnacle of sport, Dave. Going to the Olympics, going to the U20 World Cup, putting the team on his back. Guys, what did you see from Paxton in this qualifying campaign, and would you like to see more of it with the Union?
Yeah, I'd love to see more of it with the Union. I think when you watch Philly and you say the holes in their team are creativity, finishing, a lot of stuff in the final third, he also does it at a different speed than everyone else. Everyone wants to stretch the back line, make direct runs. There's more nuance to his game. There always has been. That's sort of been the story with Brendan was the better athlete, but Paxton was the cleaner player, more creative and more dangerous. And you saw it all sort of come together for him in this round of qualifying. And I've said this a couple times. I don't think, to me, there's less value in these youth teams now because there is such strong developmental pathways for players professionally in North America, that their academy system is better, that their competition at that level is better. But it's a learning experience. It's a psychological experience. And for, I think, a national team now that skews so young, the experience that players will get at the U20 World Cup and the Olympics for guys who should be breaking into the national team but won't because the guys in front of them are 20 and 21, right? Anyone who's a left back in the U.S. pool is looking at it and saying, George Bello's there for how many years? Joe Scally could be there for how many years? Jedi's there for how many years? Getting an opportunity at an Olympics, I think, is going to be huge, especially in a cycle without World Cup qualifying. So all of that matters. Honestly, this is the best one they could have qualified for. So Weeby, congratulations on sort of being potentially wrong right twice a day as a broken clock on this one. And all of that's good. And it was, I think, exciting to see that a really skillful group go down to Honduras and be able to play through teams that were more interested in being physical.
I had a question here, Doyle. When will we see more playing time for Aronson, McGlynn, and Sullivan for Dupe after their strong qualifying campaign?
I think right away. I kind of got the feeling, and I have nothing to back this up other than vibes, but like I got the feeling that Jim Curtin was not resting on those guys too much at the start of the season because he knew they would be gone for, a month and a half with the U20s. So he wanted to, not put too much on their plates. And now that they're back and they're with the team for the rest of the season, I expect them all to play significantly more minutes. Aronson, especially for the reasons that David said. Like, this team needs more creativity. They need some sort of burst out of midfield isn't the right way to put it because Gazdag has been good at that. But, like, Gazdag finishes plays off. He doesn't make plays, So it's, like, I personally think they need a rethink in terms of how they're playing and down to the formation, tactics, all of it, because I think they're not as good as they should be, and I do think that the kids can help with that.
This is talking about a Philly team that's second in the East right now. Speaking of, like we've talked a lot on the show about changes within clubs in Cincy or Orlando, etc. Just that conversation alone is pretty incredible about the Philadelphia Union. Fire lose again to San Jose. Quakes look like a real soccer team. That's good news. They're still down at the bottom, though. We had a question from Victor here. What should the Fire do? Injuries have affected them. However, they seem poised to miss the playoffs again. That's just a great phrase. Poised to miss the playoffs again. Should they move on from Shabilko? Please tell us it's going to get better. Can we tell them that?
This was one of the teams I thought might be in for Arango if he is available inside of MLS. So I don't think anyone's on the roster really unless you're going to trust a 17-year-old to change things. But yeah.
That sounds like probably not. Okay, keep going. Colorado 2, Austin 3. We had people ask, is Drusy Dior your MVP? If not, why? I don't know. Lucho would probably be in that spot, but Drusy would be in my top 3 right now, no doubt about it. Big comeback win for the Verde and Black. But the question from Joseph Morin was, how much scrutiny should Robin Fraser be under after the poor results this season for Colorado? The team has made some horrific defensive mistakes this season, seem to lack mental and emotional toughness. Thank you, ET Squad. Did my bottom 5 for the Spoon, and I sort of kindly left the Rapids out, though they are within 3 points of the Spoon right now.
They've been bad.
Yeah. Joe's question, how much scrutiny should Robin Fraser be under?
I mean, scrutiny in terms of, like, this team should get better, a lot. Scrutiny in terms of his job should be on the line, none.
Yeah, that seems about right for me. Any thoughts, Dave?
I guess my one thought would be, should he want to be there? He did as
No,
well
he
as
did just sign a rich new contract.
he did, but he did as well as he did last year, and it's this hard this year. For him, like, what is the ceiling, I guess, is sort of what I come back to, unless that there should be pressure on him, which there shouldn't. I still expect this team to make the playoffs at a minimum this year, and it's how congested MLS is top to bottom right now. As Bruce said, it's 3 games and then you're in a different place. But yeah, I think it's fair to be frustrated for Rapids fans, especially last night.
No wins on the road this year for this Rapids team. 5-2-2 at home, which is good, but they did lose, obviously, in embarrassing fashion to Austin on what is always a big night in Colorado. Fireworks night, July 4th, and a -5 goal differential. Just 19 goals scored. That's among the bottom teams in the league. I won't list off all those. All right, real quick at the mailbag. Joseph Hutchison, this is strictly for Dave. If things had gone differently in Salt Lake a few years back, Santi Morales would have scored the winner for the RSL U15s on Saturday night instead of scoring for Miami's U15s, where his father, the legend Javi, is a academy coach. Just that's for Dave. And then we have a couple others here. Any thoughts on Kyle Larin to Club Bruges to join up with Tejan?
I think it's both cool and, like, weirdly disappointing at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, Bruges is really good. They're straight into the Champions League this year. I don't think they have to play in the qualifying rounds. Probably going to be the best team in Belgium, which is a very good league. And we know that Larin could dominate at that level. At the same time, I thought he was going to be a Premier League striker. Like, he was there on a free. There were links to Nottingham Forest. He's that quality. He could play as a number 9 in the Premier League, or the Bundesliga, or Serie A, or La Liga. And I'm a little disappointed he's not at one of those spots. And then on top of that, I'm disappointed that, well, if he's not at one of those spots, why didn't some MLS team come in and say, look, we'll pay you $5 million a year. Put your name on paper. Here's $25 million over the next 5 years. Because, like, he's 27 years old. He would have been perfect.
I don't think it would have worked because I hadn't heard this until it happened, but the rumor was that Tigres was also connected. I would assume that's what Tigres was going to do because that's what they do, right? Which, on one hand, would have been really cool to see Kyle Larin starting up top alongside Gignac for Tigres, but my guess is that's the type of offer they gave him. I don't know any of this, but my theory is he signed on a free, probably a shorter-term contract with an easy out, and says the World Cup and playing here in Champions League will push my value up because Olympiacos doesn't excite me, and I guess Nottingham Forest didn't happen. But I agree with you, and I'm shocked that the offers weren't there for him out of Besiktas, where he already played pretty well in Champions League last year.
Movements for U.S. goalkeepers. Obviously, Matt Turner to Arsenal, but now I don't know if you didn't talk about this on the show, did we? Zach Steffen to Middlesbrough on loan in the Championship, and Ethan Horvath to Luton Town.
Luton.
Isn't it Luton?
Yeah.
Luton?
Yes, we offended Luton Town right here at the end of the show. That gets me pumped.
United States Town? Sorry.
Yeah.
What do you think about the Steffen move? It happened. We sort of had thought it wouldn't, but it did.
Anything that gets him regular playing time. anything. I don't
Does
care
this
whether
put
it's
him in
championship.
is he back just on the merits of this move in playing time? Does it put him in pole position to be the starter in Qatar?
I have no idea.
I would assume if
Right
Matt
answer.
Turner is the starter for Arsenal. So Matt Turner technically controls his destiny the most, I think, but more likely, I would say, is Zach Steffens playing every week for Middlesbrough, who were, I think, the last team out of the playoffs in the championship last year, so should be a decent level. He would be the one that starts, yeah.
Seth Rosenwig hit us up, said, goalkeeper protections. Did MLS go too far? No, they didn't. People got really riled up over that Dane St. Clair play. Like, defenseless goalkeepers and players that have no chance of winning the ball, like, just do the math yourself, man. Like, head injuries are a major, major issue in sports in general, and protecting players and player safety should always come number one. Players that aren't going to win the ball shouldn't just get carte blanche to come rolling in and hit goalkeepers. That's it. He also asked if semi-automated offside, when might it make its way to MLS? No idea. Or should it even make it here? Do you guys like automated offside?
No.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't either. I would like to see the flag stay down in more situations that
Well,
are very
actually,
close in MLS.
Let's put it this way: if automated offside is just automatic, if it's just like if it beeps, that's it. Like there is something to be said for that, because one of the things you don't know when to celebrate a goal these days. You know, like it can sometimes be hard. So if automated offside is like 100% automatic and like no bones about it, and like the whistle blows and that's that, I'm not sure I would be against that. But I'm a Luddite, so I don't trust the technology.
Well,
Yeah. Okay,
Weeby,
so-
you're potentially invoking the wrath of every defender in MLS who's like, kill the play, kill the play. Every time they let anything run where they think it
sorry.
was offside. But Weeby, I'm going to close you out on this mailbag question because you walked away.
Let me
and it's
let me give an
perfect for
idea
you.
out there for people before you do that. If it's a goal to Doyle's idea, Flames a la Atlanta or Seattle. If it's offside, just through the louds, just wah wah, and then we just move on.
Okay,
Liked it.
cool.
All right, finish.
Aaron
end the show.
and Perrine
Just put me
sent
out of
us
my
this
misery.
email. Aaron said, my wife and I are big Revs fans living in Atlanta. We're strong proponents of the
go.
tuck, La Tuck, but not enough time is spent talking about sock height. Obviously, Andrew Farrell's the king of the low sock, and Joseph deserves a shout. Who else shows their shins? What are the sock associated advanced stats, interceptions per centimeters of sock height, goals per inch of exposed shin, and will Doyle dismiss these metrics because of a small sample size? Quote unquote, what are Charlie and Kalen's takes as well? These are important questions that deserve answers. This felt
just
right up your
listen to.
wheelhouse, Weeby.
We'll
What
just end
is
this.
this?
Yeah, we'll just end this. This is an ode to Chris Korb, and so I think we can just call this.
I
sort
told
of,
you it was
this
right
is
up
the,
Weeby's wheelhouse.
This is, I think, the Chris Korb theorem. If I had to just sort of off the top of my head name it after anyone around the league, Chris Korb, he abhorred, he hated socks and or shin guards. So for Aaron and Perrine, go back and check out Chris Korb, and if you want to search Mark McClure's Twitter feed for any and all Chris Korb mentions, you will not be disappointed. That's it for us. Hit us up on Twitter. It's probably the best way. I put out a thread for the mailbag, and we mix it into every show before the shows. So follow me, Andrew_Weeby, and Extra Time at Extra Time. Obviously, these two guys listen to MLS Today. It is one of the best ways to start your day as an MLS fan, and we'll see you on Thursday with Chuck. Adios. Congratulations, you made it through more than an hour of Extra Time. That means you love the show, and if you love the show, you probably want more episodes. Click right here for more episodes of Extra Time, and here to subscribe to the MLS YouTube channel. Thanks for following along.